YouTube, we have a bit of a nuke of a blog article and news regarding Overwatch and what they're experimenting with in the future. If you've been hiding in the shadows and you read the thumbnail or the title, you're like, oh my god, Overwatch 6v6. I knew they made a mistake with 5v5. You might be right, but you might be not necessarily so right, because all this is a little bit of insight and testing on potentially returning to 6v6 and seeing if people like it with extra steps. Now, before you jump to conclusions, 6v6, for those who haven't played Overwatch in a long time, is already in the game for the last 2 years. They have it and called Open Queue, where you're not locked into role queue, but it is a minimum of 1 tank with extra steps. You can still run triple support, so there is like a 1-2-3 comp, but it is a minimum 1 tank kind of a game mode, maximum 3. Now, what they're experimenting with here is different kind of formats like 1-3-2 and all locked into one little queue for a quick play hacked mini event this weekend and in a couple of weekends as well, just to see if people like it. So don't jump to too many conclusions now, but they're just basically saying they're experimenting to see how people are going to react to something like that. So that's what quick play is going to be replaced with. And very shortly, I'll talk to you guys about the stuff they revealed, which is actual game mode data, which they've revealed for the first time. Guys, Stadium is played by less than 3% of the player base for ranked and unranked. 5v5 accounts for 54% of the daily players in unranked and 37% for ranked. All these numbers will not add up to 100% because this is basically daily information on what people play in a single session. So they could queue Stadium, then queue 5v5, then queue 6v6, so you don't get 100%. But it does paint a pretty clear picture that Stadium is not popular at all, which is kind of what people already expected, but that's crazy. And currently 6v6 is at 19% and 8% respectively for unranked and ranked. Mystery Heroes, 6v6 is 4% and the rest are scattered. The rest are scattered everywhere else. So 5v5 is still the main game mode. Anyways, I just wanted to give you the quick TLDR at the beginning. And now let's sit back and read what Aaron Keller, the game director, has to say. Director's take, future formats. Sounds like an X-Men movie. Hey everyone, one thing I hope you absorb from our blogs, streams, and social media posts is that the fact that we regularly play and love Overwatch on Team 4. All of us have a stake in how enjoyable the experience is because we are queuing up too. I know a lot of people do say that, oh my god, the devs don't play their own game. They don't know what to do with the balance. These devs don't play their own game. They don't know shit. Listen, whenever they balance the stuff, not to defend them, some choices are pretty interesting, but you will find that your experience varies depending on the rank you play at and the region you play at. Heroes like Sierra are banned and picked a lot in Silver, but do not get touched at all in Grandmaster Plus, right? We have our own big dreams and gut feelings about how the game can grow and evolve as time goes on. Future innovation is an important topic on Team 4, and game format 6v6, 5v5 is one of the most frequently discussed systems, and that's what we'll be exploring today. Changes like this can have a big impact on the core feel of the game. We don't take them lightly, but we are committed to continually improving Overwatch, and this is one of the biggest ways we can do it, so buckle up. That's actually a good philosophy to have. All right, hypothesizing is the next subheading. Discussions around format on social media often focus on specific team sizes or past versions of Overwatch, but the question we're asking ourselves is broader than that. What if there was another way? So in the latter half of season 3, so right now we're in season 3, we're running a few experiments to test exactly that. These quick play hacked events will be in a 6v6 format and will run for 2 weekends this month. With these tests, we're hoping to find ways of making matchmaking more dynamic in role queue specifically, improving the tank experience and removing some of the volatility of team fights while also removing some of the pain points that players have with our current formats. You've told us the tank role often plays too big of a factor in determining the outcome of a standard 5v5 match. Single tanks feel that responsibility and can stress or counter swap on respawn, causing mismatches in team compositions. Tanks can also be fairly overpowered in 1v1 situations with other roles, and that can be difficult for us to balance. With the potential of 2 active tanks per team, we see an opportunity to test different balance tuning that might soften these rough points. Additionally, most matches in Overwatch are very fast and dynamic. This can be great. I think a lot of us enjoy the swift action and impact that we have, but that speed can also distort community perception of matchmaking and balancing issues. Stomps feel more frequent, and steamrolls from early game ultimate economy and lost team fights can make matches feel unfair. Several factors in these experiments could offer more consistency when it comes to match fairness, perceived or otherwise. Experimental modes like Quick Play Hacked and limited time events like Junkenstein's Lab gives us fantastic feedback and offer data we sometimes use to shape the future of Overwatch. As a great example, The pickable passives in the 2024 Quick Play Hacked, I remember this, showed us the path to perks and hinted at the community's enthusiasm for choice before that system was ultimately added, I guess in 2025, right? Before we move on to the details, there's a very important caveat here. The result or success of these experiments doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be changing the main format of the game. These findings could inspire us to tweak existing core modes or create new arcade modes. Like with any good experiment, we won't know the results until we complete all the steps. Okay, this is important, guys. So what are they doing? Between July 16th and 19th, our first experiment is FlexQ. We're testing a hybrid format between RollQ222 and OpenQ. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna run into a flexible 1-3-2 team format, 1 tank, 3 DPS, 2 supports, where there will always be at least 1 tank, 3 flex damage dealers, and 2 supports. The twist on this quick play hack is that any of the damage dealers can choose to play a tank hero, but only one of them can do so at the same time. So if you start as Tracer and realize your team needs more bulk, you can come back as Zarya for a little more oomph, but your Hanzo can't also swap to Reinhardt. You can swap back to damage at any time, and another damage dealer can take over the tank role if they'd like. In essence, teams will either have 2 tanks and 2 damage dealers, or 1 tank and 3 damage dealers. All right, so what's the difference between this and OpenQ? Well, number one, this format gets around the queue time issues when using RollQ for 6v6. We no longer have to wait for 2 tank players to put a match together. Damage is still the most popular role in the game, and this format acknowledges that. The second point is that it provides slightly more dynamic experience than straight up 2-2-2 would. There are only 2 valid team compositions available to each team, and those compositions can dynamically change over the course of the match. Different damage dealers can flex at different times. Ideally, this dynamic flexibility could lead to greater variety in matches, while hopefully still consistent enough to feel competitive. It's more consistent than OpenQ, which can have matches with 0 tanks, 4 damage heroes, or even 6 damage dealers. There are a few downsides to this format, and the biggest is that the potential social pressure for damage dealers to play tank. But if the burden is shared among 3 people with more freedom to play different heroes, will it feel acceptable? We're hoping to find out. Okay, so one thing I do want to say is I have played a good amount of OpenQ 6v6 in competitive specifically right now, and I did hit a pretty high, I got to champion in that game mode. I will say that in the majority of my games, most people were willing to play 2-2-2 already. Social pressure at that rank is pretty high that most people will flex to do that. That's my personal take on that. I actually have not personally ever run into like a 4 damage hero lobby or 5 damage 1 support lobby, which is interesting, but this might be a problem more consistent with other people's experience, right? So that does solve this. I will say FlexQ will also solve the issue of triple support, which can be a problem in its own. Playing 2-1-3, which is a pretty decent composition in OpenQ, is now no longer a format. It does happen when I play my 6v6 current game modes in OpenQ, where I'm a support player. I can flex to tank, but like all you need to do is realistically find 1 DPS player, and most people are able to switch to triple support, worst case. But this does get rid of the annoyingness of all the healing of that comp. So now we're only down to 1-3-2 and 2-2-2. I have played 1-3-2 currently in the OpenQ format as well. It really isn't that bad, and neither is 2-1-3. I said 2-1-3, like triple support could be a problem, but 2-1-3 feels pretty competitive. 2-2-2, and 1-3-2 doesn't feel bad if the 1 is like a Roadhog or Ball. Now I'm curious to see if this idea of this FlexQ experiment is running the current OpenQ balancing format, because if you don't know, like when you play 6v6 OpenQ specifically, they have a separate balance tuning for a lot of the tanks. Cooldowns are a little bit different for some of the tanks and some of the other heroes. But if they do that, at first glance, it feels like if you don't play either like Sigma Ball or Roadhog and you just play solo tank Reinhardt, you might get walked all over, just depending on what the enemy team plays in response. So like, I know that they're trying to bridge the gap between there, but the whole point of this is an experiment, which I understand. So like, I'm just worried that the 1-3-2 fails in comparison, but I guess there's only one way to find out. When you play Quick Play Hack, you get a large amount of the player population trying it out, so we'll get to see. Also, I just saw, now that I think about it, damage has a choice to queue tank, but a tank will only be able to queue tank. So like, if you want to play tank, should you not just queue damage to guarantee a tank buddy? Does that make sense? Like if I queue tank in this Quick Play Hacked weekend, there's a chance I have to solo tank, which tank players hate. And now you have to deal with an extra player on the enemy team, and you might not have the 5v5 Giga tank tuning, like you were a squishier tank, because you do lose HP. So I'm not sure if if you're in a 1-3-2, your HP jumps up to the 5v5 tank format, or like you're already playing the nerfed HP. Like Doomfist and Zarya have really low HP. Sigma's at like 400 HP or something insane like that, right? Same with Zarya and Queen. I think, aren't they at like 350 HP? Something really insane like that. So if I want a tank buddy and I want to play tank anyways, I should just queue damage anyways, because there's a higher you're always guaranteed the tank buddy because somebody else has queued in the tank format. So I feel like there's a little bit of a hole right there in that idea, but I guess we'll wait and see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments too. Okay, the next experiment they're thinking about is dynamic queue. The second test will be running from July 30th to August 2nd, which is also 6v6 and includes elements of the flex queue format. In our first experiment, we're calling this dynamic queue. So our matchmaking will try to create a blend of role queue 2-2-2 matches and flex queue matches. It'll be aiming for 2-2-2, but based on the number of people queued for tank, which is our current bottleneck, it will start matches in the flex queue format mentioned above. Think of the shift into flex queue format as the release valve for the 2-2-2. Okay, so priority is to make 2-2-2, just like Overwatch 1, but if it can't find the tank player, which is the current bottleneck, it will just resort to the one tank filling up the role, and then 1-3-2, and then an option for that damage player to flex worst case. So the benefit of this mode is that it should allow for a substantial number of matches to be run in what we anticipate will be the most preferred format, 2-2-2, and it'll do this without major impact on queue times. Additionally, if flex queue matches are the minority, this might take some of the sting away from damage dealers feeling pressured to play tank. When you think about it, there really isn't a queue like this in Overwatch. Our current flex role mostly puts you into tank due to how queue population shakes out. But if queuing for this version of flex means you've got to play damage 70% of the time, and the other 30% of the time might include the opportunity to swap to tank, things could feel more fresh and fair. The biggest downside of this mode is the loss of consistency from match to match. This could reduce the competitive feel of the game, and that's something we'll be keeping a close eye on. We're excited to see how you all feel about it. That's a good point. Now that we've been in role queue for like 7 years since role queue was introduced, people do have a very big disproportionate rank between each role. You notice it right now when you play the open queue format. Like I said, I play support mainly. That's my best role by far. If I had to flex on a tank, I'm not as good. Same with DPS when I play 66. I've done it, but like my rank, I guess, will kind of reflect that in some cases. So like matchmaking consistency and will feel a bit volatile if you're in the 1-3-2 and you have the social pressure to swap to tank, but you're not that good at tank. But like the team really needs the extra beefiness, but nobody there is a true tank player except the one person that queued it. So then you kind of just are playing on the back foot, or maybe slightly playing from behind. But I mean, this was something that Overwatch 1 dealt with from 2016 to 2019 anyways. The truth, like queuing into 5 support players, 6 support players on one team was always gonna be an interesting insta loss at the start. Not always, but like 90% of the time. That's their experiment for dynamic and flex queue 6v6. Please leave your comments right now on what you think about it right now. So now let's talk about data before we end off the blog. I talked about this right at the intro, but here's some data. One thing our current data shows is a changing trend in participation when it comes to certain modes. So this is data as of June 28th. Here are some of our statistics for daily player counts for a few different modes. Players can be counted for every mode they play in a single session, and all modes aren't listed, so those numbers won't add up to the standard 100%. So when you look at these and go like, whoa, for the listeners listening to this on their run, you know, at work or whatever, unranked role queue 5v5 is 54% of the daily players. Ranked role queue 5v5, 37% daily players. Unranked open queue 6v6 format, right now, 19%. Ranked open queue 6v6 is only 8%. So if you guys watch Twitch streamers, you'll see like a lot of the streamers play 6v6 right now. I did for a couple seasons, but you know, like Aspen, Frog, or Emong, they're always, and Wanted, they're always playing 6v6 right now. Realistically, they are part of the 8% of players that do that on the daily. That's actually incredibly low. There are so many people that just open the game after work, and they just play what they want to play and log out. So like what you see streamers play, some people go like, oh my god, KarQ, have you noticed that a lot of people are playing 6v6? I mean, like, yeah, but like a majority of players are still not. 8% of ranked, 19% open queue, okay. In unranked, decent amount, but not much. It is the second highest though, to be fair. Because unranked Mystery Heroes 6v6 is 4%, which is higher than Stadium, because Stadium sits at ranked 3% and unranked 3% of the player base. Stadium has fallen from grace, and I do think it's because people don't want to learn it. When you look at these disproportionate numbers, a lot of people just play the game. They log in after work or in a long day of school or whatever. And they just, they don't want to sit there and learn all these gazillion builds, so they don't play Stadium. They'll just play the format that's in front of them, which is unranked role queue 5v5. 54% of players will play this at least once when they log in. Now, is that due to because that's the main format offered right in front of them? Is 5v5 only popular because of that? Like, it's not to say 6v6 isn't good, open queue right now isn't good or isn't popular. It's because you kind of have to navigate a few menus to find it. When you just like play Overwatch as a casual, what's the first big thing they show? Quick play. You just click that, and go. You don't really like dive too deep into all the other modes, right? In any case, Aaron has to say overall 5v5 has maintained its majority, and 6v6 continues to see an increase in popularity. Stadium, meanwhile, has settled into a dedicated, smaller audience. With this in mind, we'll continue supporting Stadium with seasonal balance updates, rank resets, and rewards. We're not planning on expanding Stadium with new heroes or maps. Oh, that's a big takeaway here. Instead, we're taking what lessons we've gleaned from building it and applying those lessons and those talented devs to our future plans. Information nuke for the active Stadium players. Unfortunately, it looks like they're stopping the priority in releasing heroes and maps on it. Just nobody's playing it. They'll continue tuning what they already have, but it looks like they're kind of stopping with that at this point for the foreseeable future. All right, collecting data. The most important part of our upcoming experiments is you. The enjoyment you and the folks queue with get out of quick play hack modes and limited time events tells us where to put our attention in the future. Overall, the most helpful thing you can do is very simply play the experimental modes. Give them a chance and go into those queues with an open mind. The pace of fights and general vibe of these matches may seem very different. Spend time getting used to how they feel and see if your initial reaction changes over the mode's duration. Our first versions of these tests are exactly that. Think of them as like a rough draft. If we were to create more of these or build upon the foundations, we would put more energy into balance, game readability, and fully tuning the matchmaker to prioritize when players get the 2-2-2 and 1-3-2 variants. In reality, no single weekend of quick play hacked is going to give our team enough clarity to completely base future decisions on data alone. Community feedback, especially how fun or fulfilling the changes feel, is what truly pushes us in certain directions. In conclusion, the Overwatch team knows the upcoming experiments are going to generate a lot of discussion. Try to meet those who don't share your opinions with curiosity and kindness instead of just attacking them with pitchforks. I added that part. The reason why we experiment publicly and invite you all along is because we want to bring you all of you into the process of moving the game forward in the best possible direction. Regardless of the results of these experiments or those that follow them, I know that we will continue to make Overwatch the best hero shooter it can be. Have fun getting scientific, and let's make a great game. One thing I want to point out, good article by the way, the reason why they overtake quick play is because, and some people are going to be like, why don't they do this in a separate experimental mode? Like, why are we getting rid of quick play? I don't want to play this mode. I like 5v5. This weekend I can't enjoy Overwatch because I got to play quick play hacked version and not having this thing, being in a separate area. The reason why is because quick play hacked is the easiest way to gather lots of data from players who can't avoid it. If you have an experimental mode to try this out, like you saw how fragmented the player base is, right? You're gonna get less than 10% of the players trying it out, and those who try it out are already initially biased because they're the ones who are curious. There's gonna be people who aren't curious, and then you'll never get their opinions as well, because that is valued. You want to have the best possible game, like they said, for the most amount of players. I mean, I guess that is meaningful data in a sense. If you put this as an experiment mode, A, people may not know about it, but B, it's if only 5% or 10% of players interact with the curiosity of the 6v6, is that representative that people don't care about 6v6, or is it just because they didn't know? So having it in quick play just kind of throws it in front of them and they have no choice, and then they'll speak about it in that sense, right? But anyways, I'm gonna throw it out to you guys in the comments. What do you think? I think not a bad idea to experiment. I'm actually pretty happy with the current open queue format as we speak. Some people are asking, why don't we just go back to the original 2-2-2 role queue like it was? They've said it before, and I kind of mentioned it in a previous video. It is literally a tank bottleneck problem. It is not because of lack of updates and all that kind of stuff. It was already bad in 2019 when they first released role queue. They were solving the 5 support or 5 damage player problem with 2-2-2, which solved one problem, but it introduced the queue time problem. They literally said damage queue times on average were 7 minutes in 6v6 Overwatch 2019-2020, and it's reduced down to 2 minutes on average in Overwatch 2, or I guess in the 5v5 format. I know we're back to Overwatch right now, simply because of the distribution of player bases, of player interest in what they want to queue. 1-2-2, or just one tank, is more representative of player choice and behavior, more than anything. Like, even if you have 100,000 players or 10,000 active players in the game, it's the distribution of interested players playing tank. Now, 5v5 could have like dissuaded people from even queuing it even more, but like having one less person to fill the queue solved a major problem with the queue times, which is one of the main reasons why they went to 5v5 in the first place. But this is why this whole experiment is like a middle ground, and I'm curious to see how it goes out. I'm personally no stake in the game. I actually enjoy both formats quite a bit. I played Overwatch 1, 6v6 role queue, open queue pre-2019. So 2016, 2019, I played the original one. I played role queue all the way till 5v5. I played tons of 5v5. I played lots of the open queue 6v6. I want the one where most people are happy, because that gives me job security. That's my actual honest opinion answer. The more people play in the game, more people happy means more people watch my content and let me put food on the table. So with that being said, thank you for letting me put food on the table and feeding my dog extra treats. All right, that's it for me. Comment on what you guys think, and we'll see what we have in a couple of days for the first experiment. All right, peace.